Good morning YouTube, my name is Yusuf and you are watching my news channel. Today we are Sunday the 27th of June and let's take a look what space has in store for us. To be frankly honest, not much this time. When we look at the BZ component, we see at most the positive, so no intrusion of energy from the poles. Our planet is protecting us nicely. When we look at the phi angle, we see it pointing towards the same direction, which is here towards the sun. And this also indicates a very stable solar wind stream. Same thing could be said about the density in orange and the speed in purple. And when we look at the temperature, I don't see any fluctuation at all. So, normal conditions over here. When we look at the endless spiral, we see actually that we are entering this last portion of that dense solar wind stream, and we will be exiting it quickly tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, we will start to exit it. We will enter in this void over here until we reach actually 30 June. Well, actually we will enter it on July the 1st, this denser part, and right after it we will have another dense solar wind stream. So this is something to look out for. Looking at flaring activity, well, there isn't much to talk about despite having this particular sunspot 2835, and there is a reason for that. Sunspots have magnetic polarities, a positive side and a negative side, and if these two are perfectly separated, when there is no flaring activity, because it only happens when magnetic field lines reconnect during a mix-up of these polarities. So there isn't much to expect from this sunspot despite the fact of being it quite large, let's be honest. And as for that other region, which is actually active but lacking a sunspot, well, this could still produce actually a sunspot as it faces Earth. But we will have to see in the next couple of days whether or not this will become something or nothing. And while we are speaking about these sunspots, I noticed a little bit of activity on the other side of the sun. So I took the liberty to check stereo ahead. And indeed, I think this one over here is a sunspot. And this is just another active region like this one over here. So when these sunspots will be facing Earth, we might see two sunspots, two active sunspots. But the question remains whether this one is also stable, like sunspot 2835, or if it has a complex magnetic polarity. Since there have been no CMEs on this particular side of the sun, I do think that this has also a stable polarity, just as this sunspot. But time will tell, of course, whether or not I'm wrong about this. So, looking at the sun again, we see a coronal hole facing Earth, from which solar wind will be, or could be, impacting our planet on the 30th of June. So this is something to look out for, to see whether or not this will be geo-effective. Looking at the CME tracker, on the 25th of June, actually, there were two CMEs. When I looked for yesterday, I couldn't see anything except over here, but even if this were to impact our planet, this wouldn't be geo-effective because it's a very tiny CME. So looking at the simulation, the Nasa Iswa simulation, we can clearly see two CMEs, and they actually join each other to strengthen into one CME, but they will completely miss our planet, as you can see. Looking at the magnetosphere now, because we are still, remember, in that dense part of the solar wind, we see a lot of plasma. But our planet protects us perfectly. And this is actually proof that when an anomaly happens, it's not because of space weather conditions. Because usually I hear when an anomaly, especially in this simulation happens, oh, but this is normal. This is because we are in a coronal hole wind stream, or this is because we have a CME. This is actually quite normal. This is not the case, because now, for example, we are in a very dense part of the solar wind, There are no deformations in the bow shock. Our planet basically protects us perfectly. And the reason for that is because there were no fluctuations in the electron belt, which I will show in a moment. But as you can see, there are no anomalies. This is how it is supposed to be. So if you're wondering how this simulation is supposed to look like, it is supposed to look like this. So the bow shock protects us against the pressure, the solar wind pressure. Energy levels form inside, but there are no deformations in the bow shock whatsoever. That could indicate that it is in trouble, that our magnetosphere at least is in trouble. So I'm going to switch to the magnetic field lines, and they show a similar trend. Now there is a little bit of closed field lines that get stretched out, but nothing major. And now we see that if nothing happens in this inner region, then our planet remains stable. Our planet's magnetic field remains stable. And this actually suggests, I have always problem pronouncing this word, suggests that it is the inner electron belt that is causing all these anomalies. And I have said this before in my previous videos, and time again I get the proof of this. So it's not really the magnetosphere weakening. The only thing which I'm not sure is because some are saying that because the magnetosphere is getting closer, that when this happens, the electron belt discharges. And this could be true, because there is something I have to show. When I go to the web links, I didn't do it now, but now it just came into my mind when I prepared actually the video. And the only thing I have to check whether or not this is the case, let me just yes, it's the magnetopause standoff distance. Now some have said that, I read an article, and some people, and by that I mean astrophysicists with PhDs, have claimed that when the magnetopause comes close to geosynchronous orbits, that is actually because it comes too close that the electron belt discharges completely. And this could be true because when we look at this, we actually see that it's from a safe distance, and strangely enough, nothing happens. And usually it's when it dips to geosynchronous orbit that the anomaly happens. But then again, this is like the question, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Is it the cause or is it the effect? Because I could also say it's because the electron belt discharges that the magnetosphere collapses to geosynchronous orbit. Or maybe it's the other way around, because the magnetopause comes close to geosynchronous orbit, that the electron belt discharges more than usual. So this I'm not really sure whether it's the magnetosphere coming close or the electron belts discharging. This is again cause and effect, and we could debate this endlessly. I'm not going to do this. So when we look, again, let me just play the movie. We see that conditions were mostly normal. Oh yes, something else that someone reminded me, one of my subscribers named Tom, which I want to thank, is that when these anomalies happen, there is actually something noticeable, and it is the speed that suddenly rises. And when I checked today the speed, as you can see, I will do it a little bit quickly, or just let it play. The speed remains steady. It did rise a little bit to 600 kilometers a second, but nothing major. And yesterday in my previous video, when I went to check, but I didn't include it in the video, indeed, as Tom has said it, the solar wind in this particular simulation accelerated to 1200 kilometers a second just prior to the anomaly. So this is also something to keep in mind. But again, this could also be just cause and effect rather than the reason why. So by now, if you haven't subscribed, I strongly urge you to do so, because otherwise you will miss any future content. Don't forget to turn the notifications on either, otherwise you won't know when I upload a video. And if you actually enjoyed this one, why not hit the like button? We are now at the philosophical quotes, and at the end of the video. Now we'll cite number 56. We arrived at 56. So, riches disclose in a man's character the bad qualities formerly concealed in his poverty. This is so true. So you could have a person who is humble, who looks nice, who does good deeds, but only because he's poor. Once he becomes rich or richer, you will actually start to see whether or not this man is truly a good man, or whether his poverty was just concealing all his bad sides. So for example, someone could get rich and then all of a sudden ignore his friends, act differently, become arrogant, etc., etc. And this is something you wouldn't see when he is poor, because people tend to be humbled by poverty. This is what this quote is actually saying to us, and this is so true. Okay, this is the end of the video. Thanks for watching again, and I guess we see each other next time. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.